Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. How you guys doing? Hi, Richard. Hi, Nana. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Brenda. Hopefully, you guys are having a great night tonight. I know there's not a lot of people in here yet, so I wonder where everybody is. But hello, 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 everyone. We're going to start off talking about the House tonight. I mean, as Mitch McConnell or McConnell finally sees a path to victory as the House is set up to vote again soon here, about 15, 20 minutes. They'll start to vote. But we're wondering. Yeah. Oh, McCarthy. I don't know why I said McConnell. McCarthy. Oh, and then I had to remind me because I was reading something and I wrote McConnell for some reason. McCarthy. But set up for a late vote tonight, and it looks like he might just squeak through. As Kevin McCarthy, of course, the increase in his confidence Friday that he gained the additional votes he needs to be elected the House Speaker. After some controversy, of course, the holdouts that have been blocking him over the previous 3 days, 15 of them switched sides already. So looks like he is getting his way with that. Of course, we want to know your opinion as well. So good question. I mean, the House is going to adjourn at 10, until 10 p.m., so we'll see when they get back. I mean, this is the 14th round or 15th round. He flipped the 21 Republicans with all their support. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's very narrow right now for us to keep the majority. If he doesn't get it, though, here's the thing. We need somebody center line. I mean, nobody else is going to get this speaker position. Nobody else will have near the amount of votes needed. Luckily, the 15 that did switch their votes, I do not like McCarthy at all. I think he is a half liberal, maybe half Republican. But I think he'll finally bring the Senate or the House to a single civilization where people will being able to communicate and vote on bills bipartisanly and work on things more bipartisanly, which is definitely needed right now. Especially when we're coming into what I'm going to talk about next here is the latest COVID variant and how it's shaping up or shaping the course of the pandemic. Of course, XBB.1.5, the subvariant of Omicron, is gaining ground everywhere. Deaths are still being avoided, luckily, but not in China. The latest rise in the version of the virus is caused by COVID-19 is following too familiar of a pattern. It's yet another branch off of Omicron. It's even more transmissible than any past version, gaining traction and people huddled indoors for winter. The U.S. is seeing a rapid growing, causing almost 28% of new cases right now nationwide. And it's just starting. Yeah, we need to take a stand. Don't apologize for things. I don't know why Hannity's doing it either, but watching China's biggest cities starting to look like past COVID, like the original COVID strain. I mean, we already know the burning bodies in the streets and everything else. Hospitals, funeral homes, nursing homes, doctors, all overwhelmed, drastically overwhelmed in China. Rural areas are bracing for infections. Meanwhile, China's sending people out like nothing around the world. Of course, the new variant is harder to test for, and China will likely be able to live with COVID. Of course, estimated losses are in the millions. But based on how quickly people return to the streets and are still out there in the streets working, still with COVID rapidly taking over China, the infections are likely to be the strongest in March as we watch infections grow drastically there. Dramatic U-turn because the COVID policies that were in place since mid-November implies deeper short-term economic constraint, but a faster reopening and recovery. What we've seen in the last several days, of course, in China, southern cities like Guangzhou and tourist destinations like Sandy, they passed the peak of the COVID wave. They did, but now they're hitting again. Watching these people again getting sick. I mean, smaller municipalities are seeing at least 3,000 cases a day come into clinics. And the number of patients topped, about 30,000 a day. So, regional level, the population is about 32 million in these smaller municipalities in China. They're gonna keep flowing now. I mean, the congested cities in mainland China, morning rush hour. I mean, seeing major travel outside of China. I mean, they're not testing. As of Wednesday, subways opened up in Beijing and Shanghai and Ginzing. I mean, we're watching from the extreme lows that we've seen to these case numbers climbing drastically. They're adjourned till tomorrow. They're supposed to come back at 10. See what's happening there as we go through this. It's becoming ridiculous. I mean, this is basically the Kraken, as we should say. New variant of COVID. And as we watch what happens with it, we got to be prepared. I mean, I hate to say this, but COVID's no fun. And the most transmissible version of COVID yet could spawn even more immune evasive variants. And there's plenty of studies to prove this now, not to do with the government, but actual private studies. I mean, development of treatments and vaccines for the new COVID variant urgently needed. I mean, the potential to spawn a more dangerous variant is very high. The new variant's ability to tightly bond with the human cells it infects is likely contributing to the rapid rise in the U.S. And it could lead to itself to, of course, the evolution of a more dangerous variant. The Kraken's ability to effectively hijack cells may allow it to spawn anytime and escape immunity more easily, as we're watching. I mean, the stealth Omicron we thought was bad, BA2. And of course, essentially it was, but this is a lot worse. As we're watching this, we'll closely monitor the development and try to figure out. I mean, the governments right now and scientists all around the world are trying a way to find a neutralize antibodies and vaccinate against this. This is not something that the vaccine that you've already taken could even possibly do anything. Masks aren't going to do any good. I mean, that's just a crazy point. We're watching, of course, this is very important for people that are higher risk patients, to know what's happening out there and to understand that this is going through. I've created, of course, a plasma so far that's being used, a plasmapheresis and infusion being used to try to treat very sick patients. But of course, Mandora and Pfizer are both saying experiencing breakthrough cases with this new variant. So, like I said, the vaccine is not being effective at this point. We're going to keep watching that, of course, and we're going to talk about a little bit about what's going on. And it was important. Putin, Orthodox Christmas ceasefire, began, but Ukraine and its allies rejected this as a cynical ploy. 36 hours truce declared by Russia came in effect midday Monday, or midday Moscow time. But Kiev dismisses the suggestion of a pause in hostility for the holidays. Kiev is the one dismissing this. And then they wonder why all of a sudden Russia starts shelling them again. Ukraine, of course, is accusing Russia of shelling them amid skepticism over the ceasefire. Russia stopped firing for a good period of time today earlier. They were not firing. They were not having anything to do with war. They were looking forward to a 32-hour break. But Ukraine, of course, and the West both said that it wasn't going to happen. When Kiev dismissed the suggestion of the pause in battle and the hostility for the holidays, the situation, of course, in the conflict front lines was unclear. About an hour later, after Russia's ceasefire began, air raid sirens sounded in the capital, Kiev. Though no explosions were heard, we know missiles are in the area now. Ukrainian officials are accusing Putin of using Christmas cover to buy time for his military to regroup. But he's not doing that now because they dismissed the ceasefire and they expect Russia to still follow it, even though they're not going to follow it. That's what Ukraine's basically saying. The U.S., of course, said it's the same thing. It was not threatened to propose ceasefire as a shift in strategy, Russia's approach to war, which will be a year old in February. The U.S. basically said, we believe this is a cynical ploy that Russia has used for a bit of time to regroup and ultimately reattack with potential even more vengeance, even more brutality, even more lethality if they have their way. That's what we decided to say when they asked for a ceasefire for Christmas. And then, of course, we're all now, the Western and Ukraine is all blaming Russia for firing after, of course, they said they weren't going to do the ceasefire. The West, of course, saying we're not going to agree to it. Ukraine is saying they're not going to agree to it. This is a sad situation here because the citizens are the ones that are most at fault are most impacted by this. Citizens in Russia, citizens in Ukraine, soldiers in both areas. I mean, they're saying Putin can't responsibly accept Ukraine to meet the terms of the sudden declare for a ceasefire. Have called for the ceasefire, of course, to frame Ukraine on accompanying unwitting to take the necessary steps towards negotiation. Which I think Russia is ready to negotiate, but now it's pretty much over, that term of Russia's. I mean, basically, the Ukraine and the West are hypocrisy at its best. Yeah, I think it's a glitch in the matrix too. Half the world has definitely gone crazy at this point. Moscow, right now, I mean, they have nuclear arms, hypersonic missiles on ships ready to hit Ukraine. And so Russia's military being accused of course, of Ukrainian forces shelling settlements of positions of Russia despite the ceasefire announcement by the Russian Federation was true. That was proven true. Ceasefire announcement that went out, of course, and Ukraine continued shelling settlements, positions of Russian troops. I mean, they tried to do the right thing. I can say finally, Russia, and I don't side with Russia, definitely don't side with Ukraine, but Russia tried to do the right thing. It's sickening. It's sickening. Of course, the U.S. is sending another 300 or 3.75 billion in military aid to Ukraine. That's right, $3.75 billion in military aid, military weapons and aid to Ukraine. This is crazy ridiculous right now. The latest, of course, in assistance includes Bradley armored vehicles for Ukraine, armored carrier transports to transport troops into combat, and of course, tank killers, because anti-tank missiles can be fired directly from them. The biggest assistance package, of course, to date for Kiev, $2.85 billion drawdown from the Pentagon's stock that will be sent directly to Ukraine. I mean, this is ridiculous. $2.85 billion worth of inventory for us for a war if something were to happen. Of course, that's not the only people we're giving money to. $682 million is going to Europe, to the European alliance, to, of course, help them backfill donations of military equipment they've made to Ukraine. So now we're going to pay Europe for the money that they donate to Ukraine as well. If this isn't a proxy war, if nobody sees this as a proxy war but me, there's a serious issue in this country. This is a proxy war between the U.S. and Russia. Nobody else. Europe's not even involved at this point because the stuff that Europe's given away, we paid them for. Nobody else is paying us. I mean, sending 50 Bradley vehicles and 500 anti-tank missiles and 250,000 rounds of ammunition for carriers. And then, of course, 100 M113 armored personnel carriers, 55 mine-resistant ambush predator or protected vehicles, MRAPs, 138 Hummers, ammunition for the high mobility artillery rocket system that we've given them, HIMARS, and other weapons, thousands of artillery rounds, all coming directly from the Pentagon. It is ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. It's not the government's money, it's our money. Let's be honest. Sad shape, but it's happening. Of course, when we look here closer to home, then we're just in another steep of trouble. Every time you turn around, it's something new. The dollar, of course, is losing its value. Nobody wants to talk about that, but the dollar value, of course, dropped today. The job market, of course, wage growth stopped as well. But it didn't stop anything else. It didn't stop the price increases. It didn't stop the inflation that's happening everywhere. Of course, people are having to take more of their time and more of their own money and savings to spend just to keep food on their tables. Government doesn't care about that. They'd much rather fund billions to Ukraine and a proxy war with Russia. Us using a proxy as Ukraine and Russia actually fighting themselves. This is a sad situation. It's only growing because China, of course, is another concern because China set a red line on Taiwan and we plan on sending weapons there no matter what. It's literally watching what's happening day by day right now. Of course, watching here in the U.S., our market value or our value of money is losing drastically. This is crazy. Absolutely crazy what's happening. One thing after another. California, of course, leaves thousands without power. There's another storm is coming in. Thousands of people without power already, flooding everywhere. U.S. not worrying about anybody here in the U.S. We're worried about the immigrants, though, at the southern border. Biden made an app for that. Now you can, of course, pre-apply for asylum just by doing a couple simple steps, by downloading an app on your phone and picking a random person that lives in the U.S. and stating they're your sponsor. And bada bing, bada boom, you're in. You just walk right past the border. It's pretty simple for people down there. Of course, coming with sanctuary because, they're coming from a violent nation like Venezuela or Honduras. Then they get, of course, the public benefits that they've decreased now for all U.S. citizens. Cuts to Medicaid and Medicare and food stamps and other programs now require stricter abilities to get them. But you're guaranteed those as an asylum seeker. You're guaranteed housing. Yet homeless in America is at its highest rate for U.S. citizens. Much less U.S. citizens as people that are served our military and have been honorably discharged. Our veterans sitting in the streets, cold, hungry, while we house migrants coming in at alarming rates. He said he's going to cap it at 30,000 a month, but I guarantee that's not going to be the case. Guarantee it. It is sad watching what's happening. Absolutely sad and terrifying, but watching what's happening, I mean, the House is now back in session. It's like they watching that as well. One thing and another, one thing after another going on. Oh, nobody trusts McCarthy, but he's the only one that's going to cross the bridge, reach across. I mean, we have a 6-year-old child that's been arrested today for shooting a teacher in Virginia's elementary school. Teacher, of course, in Rickneck Elementary School in Newport has life-threatening injuries after being shot by one of her students, a 6-year-old child. 6-year-old first grader at an elementary school in Newport, Virginia, shot the teacher Friday this afternoon during an altercation in the classroom, leaving her with life-threatening injuries and renewed calls for greater gun restriction. But that doesn't affect. I mean, this is a child. How'd the child get the gun in the first place? Boy that shot the teacher with a handgun about 2 p.m. I mean, where'd the child get this from? It's ridiculous. I mean, just sad. It is just sad. But God bless you guys. Lies. I don't know what the lies are. Give me 1 second, you guys. I'm gonna get them up here. Just sad.
We have all played a part, whether it's the dean or members who've just been waiting for 4 days and voting loyally. It's Kevin's leadership style that's been lacking in this institution for too long. It's the same style Kevin employed with each of us as we developed our policy proposal, A Commitment to America, a plan that works to secure our border and stop the flow of fentanyl into our communities, to give Chairman Comer and Chairman Jordan the tools they need to hold the Biden administration accountable for their failures, and to take China on and end the president's COVID emergency powers that have been abused far too many times, to finally reopen the People's House, empower our standing committees, and get people back to regular order here on the House floor, and countless other conservative solutions that are very powerful and good for constituents in Bakersville or Lincolnton, North Carolina. Madam Clerk, I'm one of the few members left on the Republican side who's had the pleasure of serving with Kevin for the entirety of his tenure in the House. In those years, I've worked closely with Kevin in a variety of different capacities. And, well, he's a good friend. But serving with him in these capacities has meant that I've heard every one of his stories. And the stories of Kevin O's Deli I've heard way too many times. I don't know if you've heard that he won the lottery as well. Those stories, I could recount them chapter and verse. He's a dear friend. But all of you have heard these stories too. And it's also, by my seat, able to watch him on a front row seat as he's grown as a leader. And especially this week, how he's grown as a leader. He knows more about members than they know about themselves. If your spouse is sick, he may send flowers or fruit before I did on that story. But he cares so much about members, not for politics, but because he cares about people. He's unflinchingly optimistic. The glass is always half full. That's been a hell of a trait, especially this week. He's relentless. The man does not quit. And it was Kevin that led Republicans back to the majority in this House, the only Republican institution in Washington this day. And Kevin has led us through these challenges the last few days. And Kevin is the right person to lead us over the coming 2 years. And that's why, at the direction of the Republican Conference, I advance the name of Kevin McCarthy as the next Speaker of the United States House of Representatives.
See if he can actually get the votes this time. I mean, be nominated every time. I mean, the same speech heard 100 times, but seeing if he gets the votes, that's the big question. As tonight, hopefully he will get the votes, but may not like him as Speaker. But we need somebody.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker of the House.
The gentleman is recognized.
House Democrats are united behind the son of a social worker and substance abuse counselor, a leader who is deeply involved in his community, and a tireless advocate for the least, the lost, and the left behind. He is a voice for the people. And Madam Clerk, this is the people's house. Two years ago today, duly elected members of this body gathered here to certify the results of a free and fair election. And in doing so, we participated in a tradition that makes our democracy a marvel and the envy of the world, a peaceful transfer of power. But this body is more than a ceremonial chamber, Madam Clerk. This is a workplace where hundreds of men and women endure long, difficult hours before they punch out and go home to their families. Where good people come to work each day and maybe steal a quiet moment to themselves to look up at the ceiling or to look at the paintings, the statue of Abraham Lincoln, and to thank God for the blessings of liberty. Because this place is so much more than a chamber or even a workplace. It is, in Lincoln's words, a sign we intend the Union shall go on.
But it is more like an echo chamber now than ever.
Madam Clerk, I'm talking about you and your staff, the custodial staff, the floor staff, the institutional staff, our congressional staff, the sergeant at arms, our beloved chaplain, and the Capitol Police. I'm talking about the people who make this house work, the people who Hakeem Jeffries will never take for granted. Two years ago, Madam Clerk, we witnessed this place under siege by a violent mob who desecrated this building and the other chamber. But this feels a little familiar. Today we adjourned amidst utter confusion, only this time we're returning in the dark of night, not to cast a vote to bring this country together and to do our jobs, but one that will set the path toward division and default. So if we are forced to be here this evening because of the chaos and crisis on the other side, it's only fair to point out, Madam Clerk, that the same individuals who fanned the flames of January 6th, who told their followers and their followers' followers that they needed to fight back, and who challenged the swearing in of members based on a bogus claim of fake electors, may well be in charge of the People's House if they can ever agree on who can lead them.
Will the House be in
That
order?
was ridiculous. That was an absolutely ridiculous statement to be made by any
That's
senator
why
or any House
Democrats
member.
stand united behind Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem is the only candidate in this race for Speaker who will defend this democracy. He is the only candidate in this race willing to call out the lie that the election was stolen. And he is the only candidate in this race who thinks that everyone involved on January 6th ought to be held accountable regardless of the positions they hold in power. For justice and truth, and in memory of the lives lost on January 6th, I nominate Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker of the House.
Person speaking is actually from California. The guy that was speaking.
The reading clerk will call the roll.
You know, this place that's in dirt and shambles with homeless people on the streets, and Nancy Pelosi's city's full of them. Crime ridden.
Adams. Jeffries. Adderholt. McCarthy. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford. McCarthy. Allen. McCarthy. Allred. Jeffries. Amadei. McCarthy. Armstrong. McCarthy. Arrington. McCarthy. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. McCarthy. Bacon. McCarthy. Baird. McCarthy. Balderson. McCarthy. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. McCarthy. Barr. McCarthy. Barragan. Jeffries. Bean of Florida. McCarthy. Beatty. Jeffries. Bent. McCarthy. Barra. Jeffries. Bergman. McCarthy. Beyer. Jeffries. Bice. McCarthy. Biggs. Biggs. Jordan. Bilirakis. McCarthy. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. McCarthy. Blumenauer. Jeffries. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Present. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bost. Bost. McCarthy. Bowman. Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Burkeen. McCarthy. Brown. Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries. Buchanan. McCarthy. Buck. Buck. Bouchon. McCarthy. Budzinski. Jeffries. Burchett. McCarthy. Burgess. McCarthy. Burleson. McCarthy. Bush. Jeffries. Calvert. McCarthy. Kamek. McCarthy. Caraveo. Jeffries. Carbajal. Jeffries. Cardenas. Jeffries. Carey. McCarthy. Carl. McCarthy. Carson. Jeffries. Carter of Georgia. McCarthy. Carter of Louisiana. Jeffries. Carter of Texas. McCarthy. Cartwright. Jeffries. Kassar. Jeffries. Case. Jeffries. Caston. Jeffries. Castor of Florida. Jeffries. Castro of Texas. Jeffries. Chavez DeReamer. McCarthy. Sherfilis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu. Jeffries. Cicilline. Jeffries. Siscomani. McCarthy. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries. Clark of New York. Jeffries. Cleaver. Jeffries. Klein. McCarthy. Cloud. McCarthy. Clyburn. Clyburn. Jeffries. Clyde. McCarthy. Cohen. Jeffries. Cole. McCarthy. Collins. McCarthy. Comer. McCarthy. Connolly. Jeffries. Correa. Jeffries. Costa. Jeffries. Courtney. Jeffries. Craig. Jeffries. Crane. Biggs. Crawford. McCarthy. Crenshaw. McCarthy. Crockett. Jeffries. Crow. Jeffries. Cuellar. Jeffries. Curtis. McCarthy. Davids of Kansas. Jeffries. Davidson. McCarthy. Davis of Illinois. Jeffries. Davis of North Carolina. Jeffries. Dean of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. DeGette. Jeffries. Dela Cruz. McCarthy. DeLauro. Jeffries. Del Bene. Jeffries. DeLuzio. Jeffries. DeSaulnier. Jeffries. Desjardins. McCarthy. Diaz-Pizito. McCarthy. Diaz-Balart. McCarthy. Dingle. Jeffries. Doggett. Jeffries. Donalds. McCarthy. Duarte. McCarthy. Duncan. McCarthy. Dunn of Florida. McCarthy. Edwards. McCarthy. Elzey. McCarthy. Emmer. McCarthy. Escobar. Jeffries. Eshoo. Jeffries. Espaillat. Jeffries. Estes. McCarthy. Evans. Jeffries. Ezell. McCarthy. Fallon. McCarthy. Finstra. McCarthy. Ferguson. McCarthy. Finstad. McCarthy. Fishbach. McCarthy. Fitzgerald. McCarthy. Fitzpatrick. McCarthy. Fleischman. McCarthy. Fletcher. Jeffries. Flood. McCarthy. Foster. Jeffries. Fushi. Jeffries. Fox. McCarthy. Lois Frankel. Jeffries. C. Scott Franklin. McCarthy. Frost. Jeffries. Fry. McCarthy. Fulcher. McCarthy. Gates. Gates. Gallagher. McCarthy. Gallego. Jeffries. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. McCarthy. Mike Garcia. McCarthy. Robert Garcia. Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois. Jeffries. Garcia of Texas. Jeffries. Jimenez. McCarthy. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries. Gomez. Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez. McCarthy. Vicente Gonzalez. Jeffries. Good of Virginia. Jordan. Gooden of Texas. Gooden of Texas. McCarthy. Gosar. Gosar. Gottheimer. Jeffries. Granger. McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana. Graves of Louisiana. Graves of Missouri. McCarthy. Green of Tennessee. McCarthy. Green of Texas. Jeffries. Green of Georgia. McCarthy. Griffith. McCarthy. Grijalva. Jeffries. Grothman. McCarthy. Guest. McCarthy. Guthrie. McCarthy. Hageman. McCarthy. Harder of California. Harder of California. Harris. Harris. McCarthy. Harshbarger. McCarthy. Hayes. Jeffries. Hearn. McCarthy. Higgins of Louisiana. McCarthy. Higgins of New York. Jeffries. Hill. McCarthy. Himes. Jeffries. Hinson. McCarthy. Horsford. Jeffries. Houchin. McCarthy. Houlihan. Jeffries. Hoyer. Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon. Jeffries. Hudson. McCarthy. Huffman. Jeffries. Huizinga. McCarthy. Hunt. McCarthy. Issa. Issa. McCarthy. Ivy. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois. Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina.
They clapped because another one crossed and is now voting
Jeffries.
for McCarthy.
Jackson of Texas. McCarthy. Jackson Lee. Jeffries. Jacobs. Jeffries. James. McCarthy. Jayapal. Jeffries. Jeffries. Jeffries.
Count we're looking at now is 98 McCarthy, Jeffries
Johnson of
93,
Georgia.
other 3, present 1.
Jeffries. Johnson of Louisiana. McCarthy. Johnson of Ohio. McCarthy. Johnson of South Dakota. McCarthy. Jordan. McCarthy. Joyce of Ohio. McCarthy. Joyce of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Kemlogger Dove. Jeffries. Captor. Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey. McCarthy. Keating. Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. McCarthy. Kelly of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Khanna. Jeffries. Kiggins of Virginia. McCarthy. Kildee. Jeffries. Kiley. McCarthy. Kilmer. Jeffries. Kim of California. McCarthy. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. McCarthy. LaHood. McCarthy. LaLota. McCarthy. LaMalfa. McCarthy. Lamborn. McCarthy. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy. McCarthy. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta. McCarthy. LaTurner. McCarthy. Lawler.
The Honorable Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. McCarthy. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Ledger Fernandez. Jeffries. Lesko. McCarthy. Letlow. McCarthy. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lucas. McCarthy. Luetkemeyer. McCarthy. Luna. McCarthy. Luttrell. McCarthy. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. McCarthy. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. McCarthy. Mann. McCarthy. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. McCarthy. Mast. McCall. McCarthy. McLean. McCarthy. McClintock. McCarthy. McCullum. Jeffries. McCormick. McCarthy. McGarvey. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. McCarthy. Meeks. Jeffries. Menendez. Jeffries. Mean. Jeffries. Muser. McCarthy. Mfume. Jeffries. Miller of Illinois. McCarthy. Miller of Ohio. McCarthy. Miller of West Virginia. McCarthy. Miller Meeks. McCarthy. Mills. McCarthy. Molinaro.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Molinar.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Mooney. McCarthy. Moore of Alabama. McCarthy. Moore of Utah.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. McCarthy. Morelli. Jeffries. Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy. McCarthy. Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries. Neal.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. DeGoose. Jeffries. Nels. McCarthy. Newhouse. McCarthy. Nickel. Jeffries. Norcross. Jeffries. Norman. McCarthy. Nunn of Iowa.
Honorable Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Obernolte. McCarthy. Ocasio-Cortez. Jeffries. Ogles. McCarthy. Omar. Jeffries. Owens. McCarthy. Pallone. Jeffries. Palmer. McCarthy. Panetta. Jeffries. Pappas. Jeffries. Pasquarel.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Payne.
Mr. Jeffries.
Jeffries. Pelosi. Jeffries. Peltola. Jeffries. Pence. McCarthy. Perez. Jeffries. Perry. McCarthy. Peters. Jeffries. Pedersen. Jeffries. Pfluger. McCarthy. Phillips. Jeffries. Pingree. Jeffries. Pocan. Jeffries. Porter. Jeffries. Posey. McCarthy. Presley. Jeffries. Quigley. Jeffries. Ramirez.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Raskin.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Reschenthaler. McCarthy. Rogers of Washington. McCarthy. Rogers of Alabama.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Rogers of Kentucky. McCarthy. Rose.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Rosendale.
Andy Biggs.
Biggs. Ross. Jeffries. Rouser. McCarthy. Roy.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Ruiz. Jeffries. Rupertsberger.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Rutherford. McCarthy. Ryan. Jeffries. Salazar. McCarthy. Salinas. Jeffries. Sanchez. Jeffries. Santos. McCarthy. Sarbanes. Jeffries. Scalise. McCarthy. Scanlon. Jeffries. Schakowsky. Jeffries. Schiff. Jeffries. Schneider. Jeffries. Skolton. Jeffries. Schreier. Jeffries. Swikert. McCarthy. Austin Scott. McCarthy. David Scott. David Scott. Scott of Virginia. Jeffries. Self. McCarthy. Sessions. McCarthy. Sewell. Jeffries. Sherman. Jeffries. Sherrill. Jeffries. Simpson. McCarthy. Slotkin. Jeffries. Smith of Missouri. McCarthy. Smith of Nebraska. McCarthy. Smith of New Jersey. McCarthy. Smith of Washington. Jeffries. Smucker. McCarthy. Sorensen. Jeffries. Soto. Jeffries. Spanberger. Jeffries. Sparts. McCarthy. Stansbury. Jeffries. Stanton. Jeffries. Stauber. McCarthy. Steele. McCarthy. Stefanik. McCarthy. Style. McCarthy. Stubbe. McCarthy. Stevens. Jeffries. Stewart. McCarthy. Strickland. Jeffries. Strong. McCarthy. Swalwell. Jeffries. Sykes. Jeffries. Takano. Jeffries. Tenney. McCarthy. Tanadar. Jeffries. Thompson of California. Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi. Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Tiffany. McCarthy. Timmons. McCarthy. Titus. Jeffries. Tlaib. Jeffries. Takuda. Jeffries. Tonko. Jeffries. Torres of California. Jeffries. Torres of New York. Jeffries. Trahan. Jeffries. Trone. Jeffries. Turner. McCarthy. Underwood. Jeffries. Valadeo. McCarthy. Van Drew.
Mr. Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Van Dyne. McCarthy. Van Orden.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Vargas.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Vasquez.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. VC.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Velasquez. Jeffries. Wagner. McCarthy. Wahlberg.
Mr. McCarthy.
McCarthy. Waltz.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Wasserman Schultz. Jeffries. Waters. Jeffries. Watson Coleman. Jeffries. Weber of Texas. McCarthy. Webster of Florida. McCarthy. Winstrup. McCarthy. Westerman. McCarthy. Wexton. Jeffries. Wild. Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries. Williams of New York. Williams of New York. McCarthy. Williams of Texas. McCarthy. Wilson of Florida. Jeffries. Wilson of South Carolina. McCarthy. Whitman. McCarthy. Womack. McCarthy. Yackham.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Zinke.
McCarthy.
McCarthy.
The reading clerk will now call the names of the members-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Buck. McCarthy. Gates. Present.
Why? Why did he go present? That was ridiculous.
Gosar. McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana. McCarthy. Harder of California. Jeffries.
This is ridiculous.
David Scott. Jeffries.
This is a root canal without Novocaine. Yeah, but I thought Gates changed his mind earlier after the last vote. Yeah, he did. That's why he's not arguing with him, because he said he was going to vote McCarthy. Nothing but a freaking circus.
We'll do it again.
Now, I understand the people taking a stand here, I mean, for their what they don't want. But at a certain time, I mean, how many times do we have to go to a vote and they make promises that they're going to change their vote for something so that they can actually have a speaker elected and it not happen? going to look bad. This is looking bad for midterm. I mean, for presidential election for Republicans too. And Republicans can't get along to even vote the same in the House. I mean, where are they going to sit as a government? They made agreements prior to the vote with several people, and Gates was one of them, that they would go McCarthy so the vote would happen. And changed his mind. So they're talking to see if they can get him to actually vote. That is true. Whether you're getting sold up the river or sold down, either way you're getting sold. Gonna get long night. Yep. Well, Gates said he was going to go McCarthy prior to this vote. So definitely, Roy's definitely in there. You can't hold out forever. I mean, they made their stand. I understand their point and why they don't want Gates or don't want him in there, but holding out now is just ridiculous. Showing a divide in the party. And you know, Democrats are going to use that to every advantage they can. Definitely a tantrum.
It's close. It's close. If we can see. It's not like a. We have not. We haven't. That is. We're like 40 minutes, but we did the same thing. We did the exact same way each time. And then when you guys give us the teller sheets, we just announce the results. We have not said that once the entire. I promise.
Can we get the tally? Can,
They're going to call it here in a minute, so doesn't look like we might not have a speaker. Right. Well, we're based out of Florida, but I understand exactly what McCarthy's done and how bad he is. The problem is the party can only stand against the few that are standing outliers right now are looking bad at the Republican Party at this point. They made their stand. They proved their point that they don't like him. But now it's time to unify as a party and make a vote happen.
the tellers agree in their tallies that the total number of votes cast is 432, of which the Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 216. The Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 212. The Honorable Jim Jordan of the state of Ohio has received 2. The Honorable Andy Biggs of the state of Arizona has received 2. No member-elect having received a majority of the votes cast, a speaker has not been elected.
Gentleman from North Carolina. Will the gentleman repeat his motion?
Will the gentleman repeat his motion?
I move the House do now adjourn until noon Monday.
The question is on the motion to adjourn. All those in favor, say. The ayes have it. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Ask for the yeas and nays. Madam Clerk, ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered.
There's no point to stay at this time. They couldn't persuade the votes now. They should definitely adjourn till Monday. If the vote's not going to change. He is a Republican, but he is also very left leaning as a Republican. You know, like a gay man that's married and has a wife and kids. That's a good way to analogize him. Democrats are the ones not wanting to adjourn, pushing another vote. No, and Democrats are going to keep pushing this to a vote because they can make the Republicans look even worse. Like right now, they don't want to adjourn. Yes, there's more Republicans than Democrats. Yep, they're definitely more liberal than conservatives, whether they claim they're Republican or not. You were definitely right about that one. Yeah. One Republican doesn't want to leave. Me too. No, there's still 43 that, or 34 that have not voted. I'm sorry. 6 Democrats that haven't voted. Yeah, the problem is Trump endorsed him. Those are 2 Republicans' nays. Oh. Well, it's the Democrats that don't want to leave because if they adjourn, there'll be a chance that the vote will happen and it'll go through Monday. If they don't adjourn, it's another vote to say, look, the Republicans can't even vote together. So that's what we're watching now. I think they're having a drink there. See all the cups? They're going to get their whiskeys now. Whiskeys or scotch. Why would you put plastic vegetables? Put real vegetables in it. This is a freaking joke, though. Literally. 3 nays now. 3 Republicans said no to adjournment. They're going to hold them to another vote right now, and it's going to come back and bad for Republicans again. And I'm not saying at all that I want McCarthy in there. It's just got to happen at this point. Yeah. Barely. See, but there's a total of 6 Republican holdouts. 2 for other candidates, or 4 for other candidates, and 2 just abstaining from the vote. See what they go though. Well, this is adjournment till Monday, Jeff. That's what this vote is. To adjourn till Monday at noon. All good. Yeah, but if they don't have time off, then they're not going to get to a vote. They got 2 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. 15 minutes on a motion vote. So we're a minute and a half, and we'll see whether they're going to adjourn or. Jeff, I feel that way sometimes too. That's why I try not to get too much directly into politics like this, but this is getting ridiculous at this point. I mean, it really sets the stage. Now there's fleas. Just fill the room with fleas so they don't even know they're there. They just start getting bit. They're going to act like animals. Let them get treated like animals. Make his nay heard. 2 votes left. If he nays it. Yep. Took his nay away. So we're adjourned. Took his nay away and went to adjourn. So. Oh, we got more nays now. It looks like the Gates might have just turned though. Yep, no votes. Republicans are turning their votes. I think Gates just said he'll vote McCarthy. Yep. The Republicans are changing their votes. They voted to adjourn because they didn't have the votes for tonight to win. But somebody just, I don't know if it was Gates or Boobart, but one of them decided they would switch. But now Republicans are voting to stay and vote again tonight. Yeah, somebody they switched. They must have got these. They must have got the votes now for sure to get McCarthy in. Otherwise, Republicans would adjourn for the day. They're all switching their votes. So. We will see. That's definitely what it looks like now. Yep. Yeah, for sure, because there's no way this many votes will be pulling out for Republicans. Oh, God bless. Might have a speaker for tonight. All the Republicans are in line. They're literally in line to change their votes, so it might be a minute or two to get their votes in.
Have all members voted? Does any member wish to change a vote?
Susan's got to get in there.
Off aye on no for Mr. Gates, Maliotakis, Boebert, Roy, Style, McCarthy, Burchett, Latta, Stauber, Lawler, McLean, Crane, Biggs, Good, Huizinga, Rosendale, Griffith, Kane of New Jersey, Turner, Emmer, Lunar, Duncan, Van Drew, Klein, Nunn of Iowa, Jimenez, Van Dyne, Carl, Davidson, Strong, Tenney, Bilirakis, Van Orden, Winstrup, Burgess, Wagner, Wahlberg, Johnson of South Dakota, Smirker, Mast, Scalise, Molinaro, Kamek, Guthrie, Fleischman, Rogers of Kentucky, Murphy, Rushenthaler, Langworthy, Joyce of Ohio, Kiley, Fallon, LaMalfa, Graves of Missouri, Bentz, C. Scott Franklin, Miller Meeks, Bice, Miller of Ohio, Rogers of Washington, Obernolte, D'Esposito, and Fitzpatrick. Off no on aye for Ms. Maliotakis.
She had two cards. So it was
Maliotakis was off aye on no.
On this vote, the yeas are 155, the nays are 279. The motion is not adopted. For what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Kevin McCarthy as the Speaker of the House. Madam Clerk, the eyes of the world, the eyes of America are on this body right now. What America needs, what this body needs, is a lot less talk and a lot more action. And at the direction of the Republican Conference, I advance the name of Kevin McCarthy as the next Speaker of the House of the 118th Congress.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Minnesota rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to say, wow. And Madam Clerk, I rise to place into nomination for election to the position of Speaker of the House of Representatives the esteemed and wonderful leader of House Democrats, Mr. Hakeem Jeffries of New York.
The gentleman is recognized.
Friends, our nation's first president, unanimously elected by the Electoral College in 1789, keeps watch over us every single day right here in this chamber. And in his inaugural address to our new nation, he spoke of, and I quote, a form of government for the security of our union and the advancement of our happiness. Security of our union and advancement of our happiness. But 234 years later, and after 14 rounds of balloting and a ridiculous war for personal power across the aisle, we, the people, still find ourselves without a constituted government, our security neglected, and the advancement of anything impossible. And happiness? Suffice to say, Americans are unhappy by the nonsense and the dysfunction playing out on this floor, particularly those who need us the most, who rely on our offices, and I mean every single one of our offices, for services and support. Not to mention the unhappy GOP and Democratic ranking members and chairs of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, our Armed Services Committee, and the Intel Committees, who say that the risk to our safety and security grows with each passing hour. So, my friends, this is not just unhappiness, this is dangerous. However, the 212 unified members of the House Democratic Caucus have a very effective solution for this problem. We call him Hakeem Jeffries.
Told you they're going to use that vote for their advantage every chance they get.
And in the spirit of friendliness,
That'd be really throwing lipstick on a pig,
we
Jeff.
extend a warm invitation to just 6 of you across the aisle to join us. Join us. And let's end this nonsense, constitute this Congress, and elect him Speaker of the House. A man who is ready to work with everyone in this Congress and throughout our country to place people over politics and solve our country's problems. A man of competency, of decency, and integrity. A man of courage, of honor, and resolve. A man
You see the way
who
New York's
listens
going,
better
right?
than anyone I have ever
You hear him talking, but you see how New York is.
A man of innovation and cooperation, and yes, indeed, alliteration. 14,421 Americans have served in the United States Congress since George Washington's inaugural address 234 years ago. One of the very finest of those Americans is Hakeem Jeffries of the great state of New York, and it is the honor of a lifetime to place his name into nomination for Speaker of the House.
The reading clerk will call the roll.
Adams. Jeffries. Adderholt. McCarthy. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford.
I'll take Kevin McCarthy for the win, please.
McCarthy. Allen. McCarthy. Allred. Jeffries. Amadei. McCarthy. Armstrong. McCarthy. Arrington. McCarthy. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. McCarthy. Bacon. Bacon. McCarthy. Baird. Baird. McCarthy. Balderson. McCarthy. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. McCarthy. Barr. McCarthy. Barragan. Jeffries.
Jeffries has a freaking arts degree, and he's
McCarthy,
leading the Democratic Party. That's pretty ridiculous.
Jeffries, Bentz, McCarthy, Barra, Jeffries, Bergman, McCarthy, Beyer, Jeffries, Bice,
For the 15th and God willing final time, Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy, Biggs, Present.
Oh.
Bilirakis, McCarthy, Bishop of Georgia, Jeffries, Bishop of North Carolina, McCarthy, Blumenauer, Jeffries, Blunt Rochester, Jeffries,
Andy Biggs was always, he was a holdout that was voting for somebody else
Present.
before.
Bonamici, Jeffries, Bost, McCarthy, Bowman, Jeffries, Boyle of Pennsylvania, Jeffries, Rakeen, McCarthy, Brown, Jeffries, Brownlee, Jeffries, Buchanan, McCarthy, Buck, McCarthy, Bouchon, McCarthy, Bazinski, Jeffries, Burchett, McCarthy, Burgess, McCarthy, Burleson, McCarthy, Bush, Jeffries, Calvert, McCarthy, Kamek,
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy,
Yeah, it's definitely the final one.
Carabeo, Jeffries, Carbajal, Jeffries, Cardenas, Jeffries, Carey, McCarthy, Carl, McCarthy, Carson, Jeffries, Carter of Georgia, McCarthy, Carter of Louisiana, Jeffries, Carter of Texas, McCarthy, Cartwright, Jeffries, Kassar, Jeffries, Case, Jeffries, Caston, Jeffries, Castor of Florida, Jeffries, Castro of Texas, Jeffries, Chavez DeReamer, McCarthy, Sherfilis McCormick, Jeffries, Chu, Jeffries, Cicilline, Jeffries, Siscobani, McCarthy, Clark of Massachusetts, Jeffries, Clark of New York, Jeffries, Cleaver, Jeffries, Klein, McCarthy, Cloud, McCarthy, Clyburn, Jeffries, Clyde, McCarthy, Cohen, Jeffries, Cole, McCarthy, Collins, McCarthy, Comer, McCarthy, Connolly, Jeffries, Correa, Jeffries, Costa, Jeffries, Courtney, Jeffries, Craig, Jeffries, Crane, Present. Crawford, McCarthy, Crenshaw, McCarthy, Crockett, Jeffries, Crow, Jeffries, Cuellar, Jeffries, Curtis, McCarthy, Davids of Kansas,
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries, Davidson, McCarthy, Davis of Illinois, Jeffries, Davis of North Carolina, Jeffries, Dean of Pennsylvania, Jeffries, DeGette, Jeffries, Dela Cruz, McCarthy, DeLauro, Jeffries, Del Bene, Jeffries, DeLuzio, Jeffries, Dusaunier, Jeffries, Desjardins, McCarthy, Diaz-Pizito, McCarthy, Diaz-Balart, McCarthy, Dingle, Jeffries, Doggett, Jeffries, Donalds, McCarthy, Duarte, McCarthy, Duncan, McCarthy, Dunn of Florida, McCarthy, Edwards, McCarthy, Elsie, McCarthy, Emmer, McCarthy, Escobar, Jeffries, Eshu, Jeffries, Espaillat, Jeffries, Estes, McCarthy, Evans, Jeffries, Ezell, McCarthy, Fallon,
Texas 15 times over. Vote for Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy, Finstra, McCarthy, Ferguson, McCarthy, Finstad, McCarthy, Fischbach,
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy, Fitzgerald, McCarthy, Fitzpatrick,
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy, Fleischman, McCarthy, Fletcher, Jeffries, Flood, McCarthy, Foster, Jeffries, Fushi, Jeffries, Fox, McCarthy, Lois Frankel, Jeffries, C. Scott Franklin, McCarthy, Frost, Jeffries, Fry, McCarthy, Fulcher, McCarthy, Gates, Present, Gallagher. McCarthy. Gallego. Jeffries. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. McCarthy. Mike Garcia. McCarthy. Robert Garcia. Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois. Jeffries. Garcia of Texas. Jeffries. Jimenez. McCarthy. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries. Gomez. Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez. McCarthy. Vicente Gonzalez. Vicente Gonzalez. Good of Virginia. Present. Gooden of Texas. McCarthy. Gosar. McCarthy. Gottheimer. Jeffries. Granger. Granger. McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana. McCarthy. Graves of Missouri. McCarthy. Green of Tennessee. McCarthy. Green of Texas. Jeffries. Green of Georgia. McCarthy. Griffith. McCarthy. Grijalva. Jeffries. Grothman. McCarthy. Guest. McCarthy. Guthrie. McCarthy. Hageman. McCarthy. Harder of California. Jeffries. Harris. McCarthy. Harshbarger. McCarthy. Hayes. Jeffries. Hearn. McCarthy. Higgins of Louisiana. McCarthy. Higgins of New York. Jeffries. Hill. McCarthy. Himes. Jeffries. Henson. McCarthy. Horsford. Jeffries. Houchin. McCarthy. Houlihan. Jeffries. Hoyer. Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon. Jeffries. Hudson. McCarthy. Huffman. Jeffries. Huizinga. McCarthy. Hunt. McCarthy. Isa. McCarthy. Ivy. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois. Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina. Jeffries. Jackson of Texas.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Jackson Lee.
For the Americans that is desperate in need of leadership, I'm proud to vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Jacobs. Jeffries. James. McCarthy. Jayapal. Jeffries. 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 Johnson of Georgia. Jeffries. Johnson of Louisiana. McCarthy. Johnson of Ohio. McCarthy. Johnson of South Dakota. Johnson of South Dakota. McCarthy. Jordan. McCarthy. Joyce of Ohio. McCarthy. Joyce of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Kamlager Dove. Jeffries. Captor. Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey. McCarthy. Keating. Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. McCarthy. Kelly of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Khanna. Jeffries. Higgins of Virginia. McCarthy. Kildee. Jeffries. Kiley. McCarthy. Kilmer. Jeffries. Kim of California. McCarthy. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. McCarthy. LaHood. McCarthy. LaLauda. McCarthy. LaMalfa. McCarthy. Lamborn. McCarthy. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. LaTurner.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lawler.
On behalf of the great state of New York, which helped deliver this Republican majority, I'm proud to cast my vote for the next speaker, the Honorable Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. McCarthy. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Ledger Fernandez. Jeffries. Lesko. McCarthy. Letlow. McCarthy. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk.
Georgia's 11th congressional district. Votes for Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lucas. McCarthy. Lukemeyer. McCarthy. Luna. McCarthy. Latrell. McCarthy. Lynch.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Mace. McCarthy. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. McCarthy. Mann. McCarthy. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. McCarthy. Mast. McCarthy. Matsui. Jeffries. McBath. Jeffries. McCarthy. McCarthy. McCall. McCarthy. McLean. McCarthy. McClintock. McCarthy. McCullum. Jeffries. McCormick. McCarthy. McGarvey. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. McHenry. McCarthy. Meeks.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Menendez.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Ming.
On behalf of the state of New York, very soon will deliver Speaker
Jeffries. Muser. McCarthy. Mfume. Jeffries. Miller of Illinois. McCarthy. Miller of Ohio. McCarthy. Miller of West Virginia. McCarthy. Miller Meeks.
15, the win goes to Hello
McCarthy. Mills.
Let's get to work.
McCarthy. Molinaro. McCarthy. Molinar. McCarthy. Mooney. McCarthy. Moore of Alabama. McCarthy. Moore of Utah. McCarthy. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. McCarthy. Morelli. Jeffries. Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy. Murphy. McCarthy. Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries. Neal. Jeffries. The Goose. Jeffries. Nels. McCarthy. Newhouse. McCarthy. Nickel. Jeffries. Norcross. Jeffries. Norman. McCarthy. Nunn of Iowa.
Honorable Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Obernolte, McCarthy, Ocasio-Cortez, Jeffries, Ogles, McCarthy, Omar, Jeffries, Owens, McCarthy, Pallone, Jeffries, Palmer, McCarthy, Panetta, Jeffries, Pappas, Jeffries, Pasquale, Jeffries, Payne, Jeffries, Pelosi, Jeffries, Peltola, Jeffries, Pence, McCarthy, Perez, Jeffries, Perry, McCarthy, Peters, Jeffries, Pedersen, Jeffries, Pfluger, McCarthy, Phillips, Jeffries, Pingree, Jeffries, Pocan, Jeffries, Porter, Jeffries, Posey, McCarthy, Presley, Jeffries, Quigley, Jeffries, Ramirez, Jeffries, Raskin, Jeffries, Reschenthaler, McCarthy, Rogers of Washington, McCarthy, Rogers of Alabama, McCarthy, Rogers of Kentucky, McCarthy, Rose, McCarthy, Rosendale, Ross, Jeffries, Rouser, McCarthy, Roy, McCarthy, Ruiz, Jeffries, Rupersberger, Jeffries, Rutherford, McCarthy, Ryan, Jeffries, Salazar, McCarthy, Salinas, Jeffries, Sanchez, Jeffries, Santos, McCarthy, Sarbanes, Jeffries, Scalise, McCarthy, Scanlon, Jeffries, Schakowsky, Jeffries, Schiff, Jeffries, Snyder, Jeffries, Skolton, Jeffries, Schreier, Jeffries, Swikert, McCarthy, Austin Scott, McCarthy, David Scott, Jeffries, Scott of Virginia, Jeffries, Self, McCarthy, Sessions, McCarthy, Sewell, Jeffries, Sherman, Jeffries, Sherrill, Jeffries, Simpson, McCarthy, Slotkin, Jeffries. Smith of Missouri.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Smith of Nebraska.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Smith of New Jersey. McCarthy. Smith of Washington. Jeffries. Smucker. McCarthy. Sorensen. Jeffries. Soto. Jeffries. Spanberger. Jeffries. Sparts. Present. Sparts. McCarthy. Stansbury. Jeffries. Stanton. Jeffries. Stallberg. McCarthy. Steele. McCarthy. Stefanik. McCarthy. Stile. McCarthy. Stubbe.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Stevens. Jeffries. Stewart. McCarthy. Strickland. Jeffries. Strong. McCarthy. Swalwell. Jeffries. Sykes. Jeffries. Takano. Jeffries. Tenney. McCarthy. Tanadar. Jeffries. Thompson of California. Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi. Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Tiffany. McCarthy. Timmons. McCarthy. Titus. Jeffries. Tlaib. Jeffries. Takuda. Jeffries. Tonko. Jeffries. Torres of California. Jeffries. Torres of New York. Torres of New York. Jeffries. Trahan. Jeffries. Trone. Jeffries. Turner. McCarthy. Underwood. Jeffries. Valadeo.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Van Drew.
On behalf of the Southern New Jersey 2nd Congressional District, Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Van Dyne. McCarthy. Van Orden.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Vargas. Jeffries. Vasquez.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. VC.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Velasquez. Jeffries. Wagner. McCarthy. Wahlberg.
Mr. McCarthy.
McCarthy. Waltz.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Wasserman Schultz. Jeffries. Waters. Jeffries. Watson Coleman. Jeffries. Weber of Texas.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Webster of Florida. McCarthy. Winstrup.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Westerman. McCarthy. Wexton. Jeffries. Wild. Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries. Williams of New York.
Mr. McCarthy.
McCarthy. Williams of Texas.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Wilson of Florida. Jeffries. Wilson of South Carolina. McCarthy. Whitman. McCarthy. Womack. McCarthy. Yackham. McCarthy. Zinke.
The next Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Kevin.
Still shy a couple votes here. Come on.
McCarthy.
The reading clerk will now call the names of the members-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Vicente Gonzalez. Jeffries. Rosendale.
Present.
Present.
It's one of the best cartoons I've ever seen.
The tellers agree in their tallies that the total number of votes cast is 428, of which the Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 216. The Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 212. With 6 recorded as present. Therefore, the Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California, having received a majority of the votes cast, is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
That's what I'm saying. Now do the job. That's what we're hoping for, is get the job done and do what he actually offered and did what he said he's going to do. That's the biggest thing. God bless you all. I'm going to say goodnight. It is late. It's already 12:30. Stay safe. Stay tuned. I will be back tomorrow night at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time to provide you guys the news. Of course, remember, we're still trying to raise that $25 a night for families in need. But God bless you all. God bless America. And God bless this vote is over. Till then, see you tomorrow. Good night.